the town where the jazz is swinging high. It's the New Orleans Outsider with Chris Goff, my oh my. We may be outsiders, but our love for New Orleans is true. So come along as I share it all with you. Sights and sounds, food and drinks. We're here to take a ride with New Orleans Outsider as our guide.
And here are your hosts, Chris Goff and Justin Appleberry.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to NOLA Outsider Podcast. I am Chris Goff, joined by Justin Appleberry, my good friend, and we both love New Orleans, and we're not from there. We're from Kansas City. Justin, every time we see me and Justin, we get to go online, and we see all these Facebook groups, and if you're not a local, there's obviously a lot bigger difference than being there and being someone outside that loves sort of the touristy areas, but that's what this is all about, isn't it, Justin?
Absolutely. I can't believe we're doing this. We've been talking about it for a while, but here we are.
Yeah, like New Orleans is, and we'll get to how you got to it in a second, Justin, but New Orleans was something that my parents had always talked about for years. It was a town that, they loved. They would go to the French Quarter. I had no idea what that was, because when you hear these terms and you're living in the Midwest, you have no clue what you're going to be walking into once you finally get there. But they would talk about the aura of the town and how much they loved it. Now, as I've gotten older, and we'll get to this later, but my New Orleans is not exactly the same as my parents' New Orleans when they go there. Isn't that true? Everyone that that goes to New Orleans has their own version of what they like to do.
Absolutely. Like when I was growing up, I thought New Orleans was Bourbon Street, beads, and boobs. That's what I thought the whole thing was. And
it is. You can have that. You can have that any day of the week. You're right.
But so much more.
It is. And so, anyway, I wanted to, I'm 47 years old now, and I started going to New Orleans probably, I was trying to remember this. It had to be, it was after Katrina. So I'm like, I never went when I was a kid. I don't know if you ever thought about going down there or ever went down there or anywhere near there, Justin. But when I was a kid, of course, everyone would be like, we're going to Mardi Gras, which at that point meant nothing to me. But I never really got to go down and experience it until I was in my 30s.
Yeah, I had never really given it much thought, to be honest with you about it. But I know that like you were always telling me based on your experiences, man, you've got to go. Your wife Lily will love it. It's a great time. There were other friends of ours, Major and all those guys were like, you got to go. And then finally, I don't know why it took us long, but we went, we enjoyed the experience, and it's just become a part of our lives.
It has. And so I probably went, I started going probably 2008, 2009. And that was, those were just sort of peripheral times. We'll get to this as this podcast grows. And the reason why we wanted to do this podcast is because, we just enjoy our time down there so much. And I'll speak only for myself right now, but, I've thought multiple times about, man, it would be so cool to have a second place down there because, I love living where we're at. We're 3 hours from anywhere in the United States on a plane. But New Orleans, and as my background, as we'll flesh that out as the weeks go on. But my background is, I did a ton of traveling in my other jobs, and I got to see a lot of places. I went international some, but mostly I've gone to all 50 states in some form or fashion. And there's some awesome places in America, and I think everyone should do all of them. But there's only a handful of places that I like to go multiple times. And there's only one that I would call if I could go anywhere in the world, and that's New Orleans. And, coming from a guy in Kansas City, I know when I go down there and the locals, they have a different perspective when you live somewhere. Just like when someone comes to Kansas City and tells me how great it is, I'm like, really? I never do any stuff down in Kansas City proper because, I live here and I guess it's just too easy. But I think when you live in New Orleans, you get sick of the touristy atmosphere of it because they do rely so much on tourism. But, after I started going there with my wife and family, and then, I would continue to try to drag people like Justin and other friends down there because I love going on trips with just my wife, but it's fun to take friends down there because it is a party town. And just experiences are so much better when everyone's a little inebriated and they remember what happened a little bit last night, and you can all talk about it for 10 years after that.
For everybody, right? You could have the late night party experience on Bourbon Street. You could get up early, go to Cafe de Monde, sit on sit in the square there, watch the boats come in, enjoy your coffee and people watch. It's a really diverse, however many acres of land it is.
Yeah, no, the French Quarter itself. Now, granted, like this podcast is going to be mainly the French Quarter, but I mean, we've definitely gone to other restaurants and activities outside of there. I mean, there's so many cool things that I know I have just scratched the surface, and I've probably gone to New Orleans in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I've probably gone there, man, I'd have to count 30 to 40 times. I mean, I try at this point in my life, I try to go there minimum 3 times a year, but that's starting to be not enough. So I try to go like 4, maybe 5, because, like this year, man, I got to go down with my family, my parents. We all went down there, unfortunately, during New Year's Eve during the terrorist attack. But that aside, we were there for that. And then we were there for, with you guys for the Super Bowl, because we are Kansas City Chiefs fans. Got to go and see that, even though that was a horrific ending. And I'm going to go again for St. Patrick's Day. So, and I have other things lined up later in the year. It's just a wonderful place. And I don't know about you, Justin, but when you go there, I'm good for like 3 good days, 3-4 days. I'm ready to come home. It is. Yep. I'm ready to come home. But then it takes about a week or 2 before I'm like, okay, I think I could go back there in like another week or 2.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think half of the fun that we experience as a group who all go to the, a little traveling group that we go with is planning the trip. All right, what are we going to do? And then we start shooting links of, have you tried this place? Oh, let's get this. Yeah. What do we have to have reservations for that? What are we going to do here? Who's playing at this venue at this time? And that just really kind of builds anticipation. And that starts pretty much, minimum 2 weeks after getting home?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody this the other day. Like, I'm a big anticipation build-up guy. Both our backgrounds are in. I worked in professional wrestling. Justin is a professional wrestler, so it's sort of like the anticipation and build-up to something is always better than really the payoff most of the times in life. But not New Orleans. The anticipation is as good as the trip. It's like Christmas. Counting down, and then when Christmas is there, I'm actually a little bit disappointed because all of it's over now. I've been waiting all these days. So when I get to New Orleans, I'm sort of like, man, I only got 3. You know how we talk about it. I'm like, man, in 3 days we'll be back home. That sucks. I know that's a very negative way of looking at it, but it's like I miss it so much, and I love the countdown that I'm sad.
Yeah, it's that last night when you're getting up early to catch the Uber to the airport, and it's just like it's back to reality, away from our happy spot.
Well, let me tell you, so we'll go. I'll go first, and you can go after me. But talking about my very first trip to New Orleans, I went with my in-laws and my wife and our very infant son, and we had a great time. We went down there, and again, I had no understanding of what going to New Orleans meant at that time. And this is sort of a trip that I don't think you've really taken, but we did a lot of peripheral stuff. I drove my truck down there from Kansas City, which is a horrible thing to do. Yeah, I mean, it's, you're paying like $50 a night to have your car sit in like a spot that's about a foot on each side. It was like brand new. I was scared it was going to get all torn up down there anyway. But you go down there and you're like, okay, we saw the French Quarter, walked around a little bit, but we did the swamp tour. We did a plantation tour. We drove to Mobile, saw some of the devastation from Katrina. And there was a lot of like historical stuff. That's when the first time I saw Napoleon House, which I love the background of that restaurant, which we'll talk about a lot.
One of our favorites,
Napoleon House. But so I got to do that side of a trip to New Orleans, and it was awesome. And I, just scratching the surface of the French Quarter, I knew that, hey, I told my wife, me and you are going to come back down here without all the other people with us. So that was a fun trip. The next full trip that I went to, and we actually went to the French Quarter, was with my friends. And I went with Travis and Sarah, as you know, and Peter and Charlotte. And these are people that are also part of they're couples that come in and out of our circle that go to New Orleans multiple times a year. And, they all love it. Maybe not as much as me, but they all love it. I always try to talk them into going more and more. But going down there, our friends Peter and Sarah and Travis had gone down there multiple times, and they knew the lay of the land. They knew the places they liked. they had bartenders, they had restaurants, they had activities, you know. And so I will say, and you can attest to this when you talk about your first trip, it's a town that if you've never been there, and people ask me all the time because they come to me now in my area and say like, hey, I'm going to New Orleans. Where should I go? It is a town that is way better to have someone with you that knows the lay of the land, because there's just so many dive bars, so many awesome restaurants, so many things to do down there that if I just got thrown down there in like into the wolves, I think it would just be, I don't know, it would be, I've never had that experience, but if I did, it would be horrible because it's too much. You know, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. You know, I've sent people down there blindly and I try to give them stuff, but they're sort of half listening and they come back and they're like, yeah, we didn't get to any of that. And I'm like, what did you do? I don't even know what you did. But that's sort of how you got taken down there.
Yeah. So our experience was, like I said, you had been on me for a while. Like you got to go. You and your wife will have a great time. All this stuff, and I don't know what finally put us over the edge or what facilitated it, but we went down, and that was for the Crew de Boo, which was the Halloween festival, which we'll get into a little later. And I just remember, like, you get off the airplane and you get into the airport. It's a standard airport. And then you get on that cab and you're driving down, and the first thing you see is a Superdome. You're like, wow, that's cool. That's the Superdome. And then just a little bit longer down the road, you're seeing all these cool like cemeteries with this stuff that looks like out of an Anne Rice movie or an Anne Rice book. And then you're in the French Quarter, and it's like you're in a whole different world. It's like it's a foreign country. Everything's different. The architecture is different. The feel's different, the smell's different, the vibe is different. And it, for us, it was just incredibly exciting. And to your point too, it was greatly beneficial for us to go down with you guys, you and Stacy. And I think Sarah was there too, and her husband. It was just, if there's so much to do that you can get kind of lost just from like too much stimulation overload. So that's always a good way to start. And that's kind of one of the reasons we started this podcast, really, is to kind of be your NOLA outsiders and kind of give you a guide of what to hit and where to hit it. And I mean, we've been there tons of times now, and there's still new places that pop up that are like surprises. That's the beauty.
You know what sucks? The only negative I can talk about going to New Orleans is that I always want, like, I used to have this rule that I'd be like, okay, I have about, I don't know, 10 places I like to go eat at. And I'm like, but I think every time we should go to one new place, because, there's always some new place opening, or there's a million other places we haven't been to before. And it's just, and by the time I get down there, I'm like, damn, we went to like our 6 favorites and we didn't do anything new, because it's like, right. I want to do everything I like, plus then some. Have your cake, eat it too, and then that's like impossible to do. There's just not enough time. And if you run New Orleans, like, look, I'm 47, so I'm not drinking like I'm 21, so I don't want it to sound like I'm like some drunk that's like half naked on Bourbon Street. But I will say, when I go down there, I will imbibe with alcohol more than I do any place else, and I will eat rich, awesome seafood down there more than I do any other time in my life. And after about 3 or 4 days of that, much like Las Vegas, it's time to go home and dry out and go on a diet for a couple weeks at least, and then say, yeah, I want to go back. But it's really hard to cram so much in 3 or 4 days. So that's the only negative I can say about ever going down there.
Yeah. I mean, you're never not busy. I mean, if you're sitting in, you're at Fritzel's watching just great jazz musicians all day long, that could take up a whole day, and it feels like an hour.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right. Like, my trips consist of, okay, I've gone in with my family, or I go with my friends like you guys, and we do multiple new things because you want to try some new stuff. Or, to be honest with you, I have a guys trip that I just go with a couple guys, and you haven't been on that one yet. But we do is, like, we're going to Fritzel's. We're going to listen to Richard Scott like 3 days in a row. We're going to drink, and we're going to eat at these 4 restaurants, and then we're going home. I mean, there's nothing else planned. I mean, it's great. Of course, the girls want to go shop, or they want to go try something else. But the guys will be smoking cigars in the courtyard and like drinking and listening to music, and that's like really all I care about. So that's fine. So yes, you can do very little actually, and feel like you've accomplished a lot. But I think the French Quarter, to someone that's never been there before, I think is something that is very hard for me to describe. I don't know if you've tried to do this for anybody else, but when people tried to describe it to me before, they would say like, well, it's just like this area, and every town has an area. We have the P&L here. We have areas that have a nickname, the Gulch in Nashville. They're all over America. But they'd say, well, the architecture's cool, and the roads are smaller and all this stuff. And I've been there. Okay, I'm like, I try to think in my mind. Okay, like Boston has like really weird roads, and like they're smaller feeling. And like I'm trying to put all these like combinations of towns together to sort of feel like in my head what the French Quarter is. And then when I finally got there, and I see what they mean, and I see the cobblestone roads, I see the street sweepers cleaning it off every day. You're like, man, I couldn't really fully describe this to anyone that doesn't visually see it with me, because it's as much as a vocabulary that I wish I think I have. It's like I cannot fully describe to anyone that's never been here or really outside of their hometown what this is really like. Do you have that problem?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. People have explained it to me before, like either you fall in love with New Orleans and especially the French Quarter because that's where we spend most of our time, or you don't like it at all. I don't know that's necessarily true, because I think there's a little something for everybody, for like morning people, day drinkers, partiers on Bourbon Street. I know, like from the moment that we arrived, it was a great experience because me and my wife both loved it equally. So it wasn't one of those things like, oh, this is his spot and I'm going to play along because I'm the good wife, or my wife likes coming here and I'm going to do it because I'm a good husband. It was just something that we both were like, this is our spot. You feel like, to me, I felt like I was in a foreign country with the architecture and the history. And
you're in France, you're in Italy.
Yeah.
I get it. And you're right.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny that you say that, because that's exactly, I think that's one of the reasons that I love it so much, is that my wife loves it as much as me. So then it's like, okay, she understands my love for it. She doesn't criticize. If you're married, you know that she has her friends, they have their favorite places, we have our favorite places, but this is like symbiotic on this one. We love it together. And she will go down there anytime I want to go down there, barring her schedule at work or whatever. And that makes it just so much easier. So, I've thought about multiple times, as I've told you, like, and we've daydreamed. I think a lot of people, when I see stuff on the internet, so many people decide, man, I think I'm going to move down there, or I want to get a secondary place. I mean, like, I think me and my friends have all been like, hey, what's Zillow got down there? It's 1.5 mil over in Algiers. Okay. Like, you're looking at this stuff to possibly go over there. And I think at the end of I'm not saying if I hit the lottery, I'm buying a place. That's not the question. But at the end of the day, I just think that I love the touristy aspect of the sense that I can dip into my fantasy world that I love and then leave it and then come back just how it is. Because there was one time, I think I told you this, but one of the band guys that I love down there, that's a drummer, he was just telling me one day, and I was sitting there half high on hurricanes and stuff, and he was just like, man, I had to drive, the traffic was sucked, gosh, the potholes, and like the city's a horrible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't want to hear this reality. Okay. This is not you're bringing me down, man. And I just don't I think a lot of people love towns like that. I have this debate with my wife all the time. If you go to the beach, you go to the mountains, you go to New Orleans, and you get to leave and come back, it's just still special. If you live there, it might not be. And that's the only thing I'd be worried about if I ever tried to get a place anywhere near the quarter.
Yeah, that's the worry, right? Like, growing up at Lake of the Ozarks, I have that issue. Like, everybody's like, oh, what mile marker did you live at? Well, I lived down there. I don't know what I didn't live on the lake. I just lived in the area. Yeah. But the tourists are like, it's all mile marker stuff. So it doesn't have the same luster for me. Much like living in Orlando, probably Disney World. You probably don't have that same romance.
Oh, well, let me tell you. Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's like Las Vegas. Why would anyone want to go to the Strip when you live there? You're like, stay the hell away from that. I can get why people feel that about the French Quarter when I see all these locals talking about everything's a tourist trap. It's so much more expensive. I get that. I understand. But the rent's high, and they got to pay it by people like me. But what was your story?
And I'm there as a tourist. I mean, I'm there for all the pomp and circumstance and take my money. I'm there to spend it. I'm there to enjoy myself. I love the city. But so when me and Lily first landed, we had scoped out this place called the Royal House, and it was an oyster bar. And I think we were meeting you guys and everything at Napoleon afterwards, but that was kind of like our first little spot. And it was like the like quintessential best first experience you can have going to New Orleans, because we walked in and it was, early, maybe like 11 o'clock. So wasn't busy yet. So we sat down and the Raging Cajun came over, the waiter, and he was like, "Oh, Shambhala, blah, blah, blah. Hey, let me tell you some jokes." And he was like what you would think of as a waiter in New Orleans, popping jokes and, just, charming the ladies and everything and telling us about all that. And we just had the best, like, first experience of that place. And then when we went to the Napoleon House and got to see all that, it was just like, man, we were out the gates running. It was perfect.
Yeah, no, I think I remember that Napoleon House is one of our first places, and the only reason, we're going to do a whole episode on Napoleon House because it's such a great place. But just the quick story is, when I first went there, I had read about the background of it, and Napoleon never lived there. Long story short, but they wanted to possibly move him there, go capture him, free him from where he was and bring him over and put him in there. And just the background story of that, and just who owned it through the years and all that, was really interesting. So we went there, and it just ended up having this, like, everything in New Orleans has like an awesome courtyard, either small or big. Mm-hmm. And, the food was great, and the drinks were good, and the story, it looks like it hasn't been touched. In fact, my kids watched the newest version of the Haunted Mansion, and it's all over that. And, it looks like a movie set. It looks like it hasn't been touched inside in 200 years. So it's just, there's so many things like that make the town special. But speaking of Napoleon House, of course, I love going there and having their boudin, and I love pretty much everything on their menu. But the cuisine overall in New Orleans is obviously one of the biggest draws. Now, I've met several people who would go down there and they're, I don't like seafood, and I just, I'm not really a big I don't know, red beans and rice guy, whatever. When I first before I went to New Orleans food was red beans and rice, jambalaya, and gumbo. That's sort of like what a Midwesterner would think you're going to get down there. And then when I went down there, of course, just all this. I'm a huge seafood lover, as are you, I know. So it's like you're eating fish and shrimp and grits, and every restaurant has their own version, and the French background down there, plus all the seafood and mixed with the creamy sauces, and it's second to none. I've been to every town around America, Justin. Obviously, Las Vegas, New York, Miami, they all have awesome restaurants. There's no question. But if you're telling me one place that I want to go eat all week long, I can't. Nothing compares to New Orleans.
I'm 100% the same. New York, fantastic food. Boston actually has a very good food scene. You want, San Antonio for like some Tex-Mex, fantastic. There's all kinds of San Francisco. Hands down, there is no better food city for even if you want like a po' boy or a super fancy redfish or anything like that. It has something for everybody. I was having this conversation with my friend at work. She was like, well, do you think, I told her we were doing this podcast. And he's like, she's, a Midwest country girl. And sure. She was like, well, do you think I would like that? I'm, kind of meat and potatoes. I don't think I'd enjoy going down there. What's the appeal? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it's not all seafood in that. You have the French culture. You have the Italian food. You can get a good steak there that's created all kinds of different ways. It's such a unique blend of so many different cultures. That's what makes the cuisine and the people so exciting.
Yeah, look, there's something for everything there, of course. I had people that just recently went from gal that works at my place. Her and her husband went down there, and it was their 40th wedding anniversary, and he had steaks everywhere he went. And I'm sure they're great. But you know what I don't eat when I'm in New Orleans? Steak. Because when I'm in Rome, I eat the food that I can't get at home, which is awesome. Get the seafood. Fish. Yeah, oysters,
get the shrimp and grits, enjoy yourself. It's going to be fine. Yep.
You get that stuff. You get stuff that you can't get anywhere else near you that's anywhere near authentic like this. So that's why I love it down there. It's just, we'll go on and on about the restaurants we love because there are so many hard, I think we all agree that probably if I took a vote for everyone in our group, it would be Muriel's would be number one, probably. Commander's Palace is sort of it's on a level by itself. I'll put that over here. Muriel's is great. I love GW Fins. Had no idea there was a Kansas City tie-in until the Super Bowl was around. They did a story on him, which I thought was very cool that he owned it, being a Kansas City guy. And then, man, the Brennan family of restaurants, there's just so many things, all the way down to Verdi Mart, like you said, the Po' Boys. If you want to go get something, if you are drunk off your ass at 2 a.m. and you want like all that jazz, Po' Boy, Muffaletta, whatever. I mean, there's Verdi Mart and 100 other Po' Boy places, but it's just it's a great town. It is.
Well, that's a funny story about Verdi Mart. Like the first time we went down there, you and me, and I think I can't remember who else was with us. We were walking back to the Airbnb you guys were at, and you were like, "Hey, we got to stop by this Verdi Mart, and we got to get one of these sandwiches." And it's 2 a.m. I'm pretty inebriated, and I'm really full because I've been eating all day. And I was like, I have no chance. And then I look at it, I'm like, we're going in here, and we aren't not tough guys. so for us to be like, good,
it's scary.
It's a little intimidating.
Sketchy. Yeah.
And then I walked in there, and as full as I was, I had probably, besides a Z-Man here at Joe's in Kansas City, the best sandwich I ever had in my life. It was just fantastic.
I have so many like little stories about Verdi Mart, just stuff that has happened in and out of that store. If you've ever gone to Verdi Mart, you walk in, it's like a convenience store that's like 65% empty. I don't understand. Like it looks like the truck with inventory hasn't shown up for a couple weeks and they're just almost out of food. And you go straight to the back where you have to sort of, if your shoulders are more than a foot wide, you have to turn sideways to go down these aisles, and you get back to the back and there's this huge deli counter with like 100 different kinds of sandwiches and food there. And you're thinking, is this where I want to eat? I don't know if this is like safe, but at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's fantastic. It's good at any time, but
it's fantastic.
I was with a cop there once, one of our cop friends, and like this dude, it was the same time. It always happens at like 1, 2 a.m. Guy walks in screaming, ranting. I don't know if he was drunk or high, but he was going off on people in there, yelling at people. My buddy, there's like a shelf with like 3 cans of food. This like random stuff. He picks up like some SpaghettiOs in a can, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Got to be ready," and I'm like, "Okay." And so this dude so then he finally gets kicked out and leaves without incident. But he sets the SpaghettiOs back down, and that's just the kind of place that is New Orleans in a nutshell at night. Now, I don't recommend anyone always just hang out at night. I think that your parents' adage of nothing good happens after midnight is true, definitely in New Orleans. But for the rare occasions that still happens for me, that's a great place to go. It is
great place any time of day.
Another aspect of it that we're going to be talking about this podcast are going to be our favorite. When I say dive bars, I mean in the best sense of the word. I mean like the dive bars are such a great thing in New Orleans. Everything is sort of shotgun style, which is like the front of the bar is 20 feet wide, maybe. It's not even. I don't even know. The frontage on the street is like 15 to 20 feet wide tops, and then it just goes back like 100 feet, or whatever. And there's so many places like that from. And all of them, the greatness of it all is that they don't allow chains in there, really. Now, there's been sort of peripheral stuff in there, like they did have a Bubblegum Shrimp Company in there. They have some things like that sort of sneak in, and I don't know what the rules are. And I'm sure conglomerates and big corporations own all these places, but from the outside, they look like they're all sort of mom and pop dive bars. Yeah.
That's the charm. That's the charm. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. That's what it has over Las Vegas. Is Las Vegas? You're just walking into, a strip mall. You're walking into, whatever place you would say. But when you're in New Orleans, you feel like these are mom and pop shops. These are mom and pop bars. You and me are both in the bar business, so we kind of know the ins and outs of that. And these guys, I mean, I've had some of the best Zazaracs and other mixed drinks in some of the shadiest looking places known to men.
Oh yeah, no, it's there's so many stories you could have at all these bars down there. But you're absolutely right. When I go to New Orleans, if I go to Las Vegas or Nashville now, is getting even worse. You walk in and every bar is, hey, it's Blake Shelton's Old Red, or it's like Kid Rock's place, or it's Big and Rich, or it's every restaurant in Las Vegas is Gordon Ramsay, or Bobby Flay. They all have the celebrity name. That just means that the hamburger is going to cost $45, no fries
Right.
attached. Okay.
Yeah.
And the bars are all just cookie cutter corporate stuff, which, hey, look, if I'm 21 and I'm going there for the first time, it's great. But now that I'm older, I'm like, these dive bars, they look like they've been here untouched for 100 years. And they all have a different spin on what they do. That's what's amazing to me. When you explain to someone like, hey, you go to the French Quarter, you fall down and you'll be able to touch like 4 different bars and restaurants, like anywhere you go. And it's like, how do these all exist? How do they not go out of business? How are they all just slightly different? You know, they all have a slightly different drink menu or slightly different version of shrimp and grits or whatever. And I just think the fact that all of them have been existing there for many years. I mean, yes, there is some turnover, but since I've been going there, not a ton of turnover, really, for the old standards.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the great debate, right? Like the Hurricane, the Pat O'Brien Hurricane, which our friend Jeremy is a big fan of, or you know, you get the Fritzl's Hurricane. Or to your point too, I think that's one of the great things that makes New Orleans exciting to me. It's even your most fancy restaurants, it's not pretentious like a Las Vegas. You know, it's not like a Gordon Ramsay's steakhouse that's here's a $200 10-ounce KC strip, which I could get here, you know, for $10 at the butcher counter.
Of course. And you're right. It's like, what's funny is they give you the allure, the fake glitzy like facade of being like uppity at the Gordon Ramsay place in Vegas. But in actuality, you go to some place like Antoine's, that's been one of the longest running family owned like French restaurants in America. They actually have had, you know, presidents and like huge names here. They have seen it all over the last 200 years. And they, you know, they don't need to sit there and compare themselves to like, again, I'm just picking on Blake Shelton, Old Red, okay? Because it's like, it's not the same, you know? It's like, that's fake. This is real. I like the real, you know, that's all.
That's right. But, and that's, I mean, you know, Commander's Palace doesn't need the celebrity chef. You know what they have is all those James Beard awards along their walls.
They make celebrity chefs. They grow them there and they spin them out like Emerald and Paul Prudhomme. I mean, these are the guys, you know, you know, Megan there now is like awesome. I mean, you're going to be one of the top chefs in the world if you're the head chef at Commander's Palace. And we'll talk. I mean, if you have not been to Commander's Palace, that's another one. Just based on the name, you're like, Commander's Palace, is this like a big castle? You know, like, I don't know what that is. You know, when you hear about it the first time, you're like, I have no idea what that is when you're a young person or you're a person that has never been to New Orleans. But gosh, just the pomp and circumstance and just the way they just roll out the red carpet there and just the majesty of that all, it just makes that experience. I mean,
and it's so fun too. Like you could just be walking down the street and a parade breaks out. All of a sudden, you know, the you know, what is the second
line?
Yeah, the second line brass band just pops out and somebody's walking down the street celebrating a funeral, a wedding, anything like that. And it's just, you know, we'll just jump right in and go along with them. Sometimes it's just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like that's the spontaneity of that town is off the charts. I mean, there's just nothing else like it. But you couldn't do that anywhere else. I mean, the French Quarter allows it to have that kind of identity because there's just no other place that will have streets like that that could be cut off for, you know, any amount of time. People just sit there and wait for 10 minutes as a parade goes by. Someone's paid enough cops and a band to play for their wedding or whatever. It's great. One thing I did want to bring up is, like, I don't know how many friends of yours hate New Orleans, or they say they don't want to go because of the crime or because it's dirty and it's disgusting, smells like pee, or people that go down there and they're like, yeah, it's gross, it's not for me. Like, I've met people, I know 2 people specifically that love Las Vegas, but they hate New Orleans. And they think New Orleans, they think it smells like, you know, poop and pee and vomit. And I'm sure there is some there, but I'm sorry. I think you need to look under the covers of Las Vegas a little bit closer.
Right,
I know there's a lot more neon there, but they're very similar. You know, that the charm of that is, I'm being disgusting, I know, but the charm of that is what sort of makes a town. You know, I don't see a lot of that either.
No. I mean, you're gonna get that anywhere. You know, you're gonna get that anywhere. You go to. I was just in Boston a couple months ago, and it's the same thing downtown. You know, just you walk out 10 at night, and there's just trash filled on the streets. There's rats running around, all that. You're gonna get that in any major metropolitan city. To me, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting because of course, like I've sort of like changed my tune. At first, I was like coming back and just preaching to everybody, like everybody needs to go to New Orleans. It's the greatest town. I tell everybody, and then I realized like there's going to be a lot of people that have either been there and hate it for whatever reason, or they just never want to go down there. Because they've heard such horrible things. And I just like, at this point, I'm just sort of like, less competition. That's fine. If they don't go, I don't need you to go. That's fine. I'll just have it be my place. That's cool.
Dude, going on the off seasons are some of our favorite times to go. Let's people around. It's wonderful.
Yes, because like, and we'll talk about that, but like going, there is a huge difference between going, me and you and our wives went to the French Quarter Fest for the first time years back.
Right after COVID
versus like, going there on a July day where it's 120 in the shade and there's way less people there, and you can get awesome hotels for like $100 a night in the French Quarter that you'd never get for less than $350 a night in the busy season. So there's definite pros and cons. As the older I get, I think the less I want to be around more people. A busy normal New Orleans day is okay with me. Like I don't need 100,000 more people, as we were there with the Super Bowl, which wasn't as bad as I thought in the French Quarter. I didn't think
not as bad at all. Yeah, there were spots where it was real busy, but I mean, all in all, not bad at all.
Let's talk about daytime versus nighttime there, because I think a lot of people, when I first started going there, nighttime was it, right? My wife was still like, let's stay out till 2 a.m. I'm not sleeping. I'm in New Orleans, that kind of attitude. And then as time has gone on, it's sort of like, you know what? I actually really like getting up and starting like whatever, breakfast or brunch with some kind of Bloody Mary or drink, and then just continuing that till, I don't know, like sometime like around 8 p.m. And then at that point, you maybe go to dinner. And then at that point, you maybe go home. And that's about my day. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, that's about the same. I was asking my wife sort of her thoughts on the experiences of going there. And, we have young kids as you do, so we're up early usually. So no matter how late we stay up, we're usually up 7, 8 o'clock. And her favorite time is going to, Curios, which is our brunch spot, our breakfast spot. Start with the bottomless mimosas. And then we like to go to Jackson Square, get a Cafe du Monde, and just walk around, see the sights, people watch, sit there and enjoy the nice morning. That's her favorite time of the whole trip, is just doing that right there. And it's fun.
It's nice. Peaceful.
It is very, it's very peaceful.
If you get up I've found as I get older that the earlier you get up in any town, it's way more peaceful because people are sleeping until 9, 10 o'clock on the weekends or whatever. But it's the morning day. If you just want to walk through the French Quarter at like, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock on any random morning, it's like so quiet. It's so cool. The only people out are like people picking up trash, cleaning streets, like just stuff like that, but nothing, no tourists, and it's a great time. It is.
You can look at that, like our favorite street is Royal Street, just because of all the art shops and, all the little boutiques they have there. And so we'll just window shop and look at the architecture and just to have a nice leisurely stroll as we're wanting to do and just enjoy that morning.
Yeah, no, the shopping there is so cool because they have such unique art down there. I mean, like one of my favorite things to do every time is to go around the Jackson Square, around the fence, and just seeing all the different artists there, because they have just such a wide variety of like fine art to like, something that somebody just drew on the side of a old drum head or whatever, or a wooden door, I mean, it's so cool. I mean, if I had millions of dollars, I'd have a lot more art. I would.
Yeah. I mean, they do sell them at a hefty price, but then you also got the boats coming in off the Mississippi there. It's fun to watch those. Yeah, it's just Jackson Square is probably my favorite spot in the Quarter, just for the people watching and just the the beautiful cathedral. Muriel's is right there, and which is our spot. It's just that's probably, if I was isolated to one central area, I would probably choose that.
Oh yeah, that's the heartbeat of the entire city right there. I mean,
it is.
Everything sort of spins off that, and It is, and that's why it's the busiest. There's so many people there just wanting to take the picture of the cathedral and just the opposite side of the river there. But the last part of sort of the town that we haven't really hit on is something that I really didn't have a background in loving jazz music before I went to New Orleans. You know, it wasn't something that we do have sort of a jazz and blues background here, obviously in Kansas City. We've had some big names come out of this town, but that wasn't necessarily what I ever grew up listening to. It's more like rock, pop stuff, and I just never got into that. But when we started going to New Orleans, I heard of this guy Kermit Ruffins. Who's this guy? And of course, you'd start seeing him at a bunch of different venues. We would go to back in, on Frenchman Street before COVID, before it got younger and skewed younger. It was really cool to go to DBA and Blue Nile and Spotted Cat and all this stuff down there. And it was just amazing brass bands, followed by solo artists, followed by duos and it all, funk to jazz to some like poppy rock stuff all over the place.
Zydeco, everything, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Zydeco music down there is obviously great, but we'll talk a lot about my favorite guy that I think is one of your favorite guys too is Richard Scott, Richard Piano Scott, who is
world famous.
He is so. I wish we could make him world famous. Yeah, he should be world famous. He is the best pianist I've ever seen live, and I've seen some really great ones. And he is, this guy is unbelievable, and he has a voice like Louis Armstrong. He's from Virginia, but he's made New Orleans his home, and we love him. He plays at Fritzl's 5 days a week still, and he is awesome, and he's our favorite. But he really turned me on to not only just jazz, but as you know, I'm a huge Fats Domino guy now. So that's all he plays. He plays requests all day. And did you have any jazz background before you went down there?
So yeah, I had some of it. I liked Miles Davis. Thelonious Monk, some of that stuff, but not really heavy. And I remember jazz just sounds better on vinyl. It just does. I can't explain the math to it. It just sounds vinyl. So I remember coming back on that first trip, and I had a record collection that I had gotten from when I was younger, when I was more into like the punk rock and the grunge and stuff. But I had no record player. I hadn't had one for years. And first thing I did is I went and I bought like a mid-level, mid to high level record player, and just bought a shit ton of jazz records, mainly based out of New Orleans. And that collection's probably close to the hundreds now. And we listen to them in the mornings when you kind of want to relax, easing into a Saturday, or if you want to bop around a little bit, or if we're getting excited about going to New Orleans, we'll pop that on. It just, the music is as big as appeal as the food. It's just the music in the air is just something you can't explain.
Yeah, the venues down there. We have great venues in Kansas City. We have your typical city venues. You have the big arena, then you have the Midland types level, and then you have smaller club places. But just the venues down, it reminds me in some ways of Nashville, where on Broadway there, where Fritzl's, for example, one of my favorite bar is their stage is what, roughly 6 by 6.
It's a kitchen table. Yeah.
It's like, and that's how it is in Nashville. You go to Tootsie's in Nashville and you're like, these people are playing on a free, like you said, a 4 by 6 carpet here. That's what it is. And there's like a 5-piece band right there. And that's sort of how it is in some of these places in New Orleans. And then Tipitina's and some of these other big venues that have had like so much history through the years are, sprinkled all throughout town. Like I said, Frenchman Street, there were some huge record labels that were existing back in the day down there on Rampart Road. So it's like, there's so many awesome musical tie-ins down there, obviously. And, we'll talk about a lot of those as the weeks go on here. Because music is obviously a huge part, like you said, of why we go down to New Orleans. But what is your, I've mentioned some, and we'll talk about these in depth, but let's talk about a few of your favorite spots that you're going to go to every time.
Okay. Every time I'm hitting Napoleon House. That's my tradition, my wife's tradition. We get off the airplane. We take that early nonstop flight right to New Orleans. First thing I'm ordering a bowl of gumbo. I'm ordering my boudin, and I'm ordering my Sazerac. And Then from there, we're probably hitting Fritzl's because Richard's probably going on right about that time. So Fritzl's is our second spot. That's probably, I think, our central headquarters where we all kind of meet. And like, if we can't find everybody and service is bad, we pretty much know we're going to go there.
Oh yeah.
And the third one, I know it's all, Curio is our brunch spot. That's a great spot. It's a little
Curio.
under the radar, but yeah, they got a great po' boy. They got a great brunch.
I give
cool
you credit
atmosphere.
for Curio. You're the one that came up with Curio.
Yeah, we just walked by it one day and we were hungry and we're like, yeah, they got brunch and it looks like they got some empty tables. And it doesn't get the claim that a lot of the other places get, but we really like it. It's got a nice bar with a good selection of bourbon, which is always big for me. Yeah. What about yours? What are your three?
Well, I've obviously rubbed off on you a lot because Napoleon House is like Stacy and I's place, and I haven't gone like a couple times ago. We went there, and it's rented out for private events now, which sucks because then it just takes it off the map. A couple days we're there.
That pissed me off in November when they were doing that.
Yeah, it's a cool venue, so I understand why you'd want to maybe get married or something there. It's awesome, but Napoleon House, Fritzl's is obviously. I mean, Fritzl's. If you've, I sort of feel bad saying Fritzl's so much because I don't want a lot of people to go there, right? Because I want to keep it small for us.
Well, it's a tiny damn place. You can fit like 40 people in there, man.
I know, right? It's like I'd sit there and do the math. I'm like, man, you have to charge a lot for drinks because half these bars you're only going to fit like 30 people in there at max capacity. Yeah. But yeah, Fritzl's is awesome. I love the bartenders there. Especially Errol is like my dude. I love that guy. And then Richard Scott's always playing. And then of course for dinner, I mean, man, I tell you, I always tell people I think GW Finn's is the best meal in the French Quarter as far as a dinner. But for atmosphere, I think I would take people to Muriel's because you're right on the corner of Jackson Square, and you get to see the decor in there and just the windows outside, seeing the square, seeing people walking around in the corners there. I mean, that is a go-to place. I think everyone I've taken there loves it.
I can't believe I omitted that one on the third. That's Muriel's is every time I have been to New Orleans, I've eaten there.
It's great.
The food's great. There are places that you can argue have better food, GW Finn's, Commander's Palace, but the atmosphere and the vibe and all that is it's just so New Orleans that you just can't beat it.
And we've been to, I wanted to mention some events we've been there for. I mean, we've been there for a lot of the festivals. The biggest one, I think, I've never spent time at Jazz Fest because as I've watched that evolve, it's become obviously a huge thing for the city, not just Jazz Fest. I mean, you got Rolling Stones and huge names coming in there every year. I mean,
they got Pearl Jam this year.
It's amazing. I mean, you can't get any bigger. They always get big acts there. So it's like a huge music festival, which at this point, that's not my reason for going to New Orleans. So I don't really have a desire to go that. But, a couple of my friends that live down there told me, you need to go to French Quarter Fest. So me and you went there with our families. And I thought it was great. I mean, it's a cool thing to see. You see all the tents in Jackson Square. I forget the rule was. Everything had to be individual. So, everyone have a 10 by 10 tent. So let's say Commander's Palace and Muriel's and all these places would have anywhere in the quarter would have a tent of their restaurant and a banner in front. And then they would have, I don't know, somewhere between 3 to 6 menu items. And I think
small samplings.
Small samplings, and everything had to be, I believe it was $10 or $12 or under. Yep. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And it was fun. You get to try new things, small bites, and then you obviously get to go watch music being played on big stages, small stages, all around the quarter. And I thought that was really cool. What did you think of that experience?
I thought it was a really cool experience too. It's different. Just a tip to the loyal listeners of ours: get the VIP package when you go there, if you can afford it. Just simply for the fact that your wives or girlfriends or significant others have access to private bathrooms that are a lot cleaner than normal, right? That was something I know that Stacy and Lily both commented on, that it was nice to have kind of your own little space. You weren't elbow in for a little place to put your lawn chairs on there, and you have a little raised elevated thing. And I don't remember the cost of that being too much at all.
No, it wasn't at all. You get to be in a little, like you said, an elevated stage type setting where you could sit up there. You got like 3 or 4 free beers or free
Yeah, a
drinks
couple
with your
free
ticket.
coupons. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think you were getting freebies anyway. And
Yeah, I can do that.
And then it was cool to just to walk around and see the ambiance. Now, do I need to do that very often? No. Like, I mean, look, this is just my personal opinion. I like going down there when it's regular New Orleans or less regular New Orleans attendance. I don't necessarily love to be there. Like, I have no desire to ever go during Mardi Gras. Now, I have gone to Crew de Vue. I have gone to Crew de Boo with you. And those are fun. Like, anytime you can dress up as an adult and act like an idiot is I'm there. I'm game.
Well, that French Quarter Fest, wasn't that the first one after COVID? That was the official one, so they were still pretty understaffed on a lot of that.
That's true. I mean, it is interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about through the weeks here that is like pre-COVID and post-COVID in New Orleans, because there's obviously differences in everywhere in America, in the world, but New Orleans, we got to see it a lot, just versus in the bar and restaurant industry. It's just right. Just being able to get the help back it was very slow pace to be able to restaff and you're right, maybe French Quarter Fest that was the first big one after that. And I've told you this the other day, I have been to New Orleans now where Bourbon Street has been shut down twice in the last like 5 years, which is weird.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's very scary and eerie to see the thing shut down, but yeah, it's COVID was one, and then the other one was the terrorist attack, and New Year's Eve to 2024 and the 2025. But again, random acts can happen anywhere. I don't necessarily think it's gonna. I think we had like we maybe balked a little bit at going down there for the Super Bowl for that reason, but not much.
A little bit of tension, yeah. Can't be scared.
So, just as we wrap up, like, I want to talk feelings about being in New Orleans. Like, people ask me all the time, and I don't know what you say about this. You can give me your definition, but like, why do you like New Orleans so much? Because I don't, I don't get too high, too low, Justin, on things. Like, I'm pretty, I don't know. I mean, I like to rant about things, of course, to you, but I don't necessarily love a lot of things outwardly, but for whatever reason, man, just the spirit of New Orleans, I just can't get enough of it. I mean, I think about it every day. It is weird. I think about the music, the food, the times I've had there, friends going there with me, like events that have happened. And, I guess it's just because it's there's so many levels to it. Like it's a town that I can go to and get away from all the responsibilities of my real life, whether that's like my children are staying with my parents or, my business. I don't have to worry about it for like 3 days because I'm not going to be around. Can't really do much anyway if I'm not there. And, just the freedom of that. That's part of it. But I don't know. There's just something, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something that sort of goes to your soul in that town that if you really love it and you really connect with that town, it's just the feeling you get inside when you think about it or you go there. And it's unlike anything I've ever had at any other town.
Same. It's the feeling of knowing that it's a fun escape. Your kids are being watched by your parents. They're safe. They're good to go. Your wife is having as much fun as you are. It's a lot about going down there with our friendships. You're going to hang out with your friends. You're going to have great food. You're going to have great drinks. You're going to see some cool stuff. You're just going to have a great time. I mean, there's never been a bad moment, that I've had there, except when I have to leave. And then it's kind of like.
Except when the Chiefs get their ass kicked in the Super Bowl, but besides
that was a tough one. That was a bad moment, but at least there was free cocktails, so I was good.
Yeah, well, look, I don't consider you to be a crazy, let's go fight people kind of guy in your everyday life. So I don't mean to.
Well, not now. Maybe 20 years ago. But.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply that, but that day when we were in this bar that we'll talk about at some point, but like. It was like 70% Eagles fans and 30% Chiefs fans. And like, you didn't get the table that you thought you were going to get. And then you were already
paid for
that you tipped somebody heavily to get. And then you were already, I don't know, you were probably a couple straight whiskeys in. And then as we got to 27-0, I was like, we better peace out of here because I don't know what's going to happen. And you were fine. Everything was good, right?
Well, to this credit, I Eagle fans get a lot of shit for their behavior, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. But the Eagle fans, maybe just because they were just beating us so bad that they kind of maybe felt sorry for us, they were just cheering their team. They weren't like, yeah, take that or blah, blah, blah. They were just enjoying their team's well-earned win. So you can't be mad at that.
No, I get it. It's just funny.
Yeah.
That was a rare experience where I didn't have a good day in New Orleans. But, like you said, when you're about to leave New Orleans, the feeling of that just sucks because usually because still sort of hungover / drunk and still, like I'm full of like my fingers have like grown to double their size from the salt intake and the cream sauces. And you're like, I can't move my wedding ring. That's about when it's time to go home. It's like it sucks. It's like I know I went there just recently over with my parents there for 6 days, and that was a long time, because and it went great. It went fast. I don't mean it in a poor way because we did different things. We did the aquarium. We did things at City Park, things on the outskirts, not around the French Quarter with the children. But it's like it's just so hard to leave the place, even though you need to, but it's like leaving your girlfriend to go on a trip or something. And you're like, man, it just sucks. I will see you soon, but I will definitely be thinking about you after I get one good night's sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, I know we're winding down here, and I know one of the things that we're doing this for is for, the NOLA Outsider is for people who are thinking about going there or looking for advice or just want to talk about it. And I think we really want to be interactive. We have an itinerary of a litany, a list of events, of places, of things that we enjoy that we're going to talk about. But I invite the listeners to, interact with us, and you'll pump all our social medias or websites and stuff. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to share your ideas, any thoughts, if you want to tell us how cool we are, anything like that, please feel free to do. And, listen, like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah, outsidernola@gmail.com. I couldn't get NOLA Outsider. Somebody else has that. Outsidernola@gmail.com. And then facebook.com/NOLA Outsider as we continue to grow this podcast and sort of have fun talking with you guys about this stuff. But yeah, it's a good point. Just to go back to the point of after, I could reminisce about New Orleans all day, but the point of this whole podcast is sort of, our friend Peter will probably join us here and there too, because he's another guy that loves New Orleans. He's a cop here in Kansas City. And we have a whole litany of friends, like you said, that enjoy going down there. So the whole point of NOLA Outsider is to take the perspective of a tourist that enjoys coming down there multiple times. I mean, I know a lot of people in my life love going to the beach like all year, 40 times a year and stuff. But the New Orleans is my beach. So as people have said to me, you're local. You're not really local, but you're local. And then, and that's how it is now. I mean, that's how I feel going down there, especially in the Quarter, Central Business District, even Tremé a little bit. I mean, we're Marigny. I mean, we're around there a lot. And so what the whole point of this is, we wanted to just highlight positively all the awesome places we love to go to. And there's plenty of places we haven't gone to, whether they're bars, restaurants, music events, or musicians, other experiences there, like that you can take your families to. Like I said, the aquarium, City Park. We want to talk about these individually, do an individual show on Muriel's, on Fritzl's, on Commander's Palace, because these are things that, for people that are going down there, you can get a perspective of somebody that goes down there and is an outsider and is not a person that's, jaded and or love being down there all the time,
Absolutely right. Ghost tours, booze tours, all that great stuff. There's so much there. We're open for all of it. We've done all of it between us. It's just fun to talk about, and we're excited to share our experiences and hear your experiences as well.
Yeah, there's so many, and there's other places that we haven't been to. Like if you guys send us something about, there's plenty of dive bars we have not been to. I want to talk to people from those bars and just get their perspective on what they're doing, because, we'll be interviewing people that work at these places or own them, or, are somehow involved with them, because there's too many places to take in after you get down there, because you would spend a lifetime going to a new 3 places every time you went down there. So it's just impossible. Right. But we have, Molly's on the Market. Molly's at the Market. That's another one that has people that live in Kansas City that I know that were related to Jim Monahan, that we have friendships with. I mean, we do a lot of stuff there. So, there's a lot of tie-ins, and we're looking forward to, talking about these individually and just expanding on all of our favorite places each and every week. So thanks for joining us on this premiere sort of whet your appetite episode of NOLA Outsider. Justin, anything else you want to say?
No, I'm Justin Appleberry, signing off, excited to visit with you guys about all things NOLA.
And I do think that the worst day in New Orleans is as good as a good day anywhere else in America. So we will see you each and every week here on this podcast, the NOLA Outsider.
Thanks for listening to the NOLA Outsider podcast. We'd love to hear about your experiences in the greatest city in the world. Email us at outsidernola@gmail.com. Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/NOLA Outsider or visit NOLAOutsider.com. See you next time on NOLA Outsider.